Hey everyone, John with Semplice here, and let's talk about portfolio grids. So the portfolio grid is essentially the bread and butter of Semplice. It's what we use to showcase your work and allow site visitors to quickly navigate through your work in the form of a thumbnail grid. So to get started, let's go up here to the Modules tab and let's drag a portfolio grid onto the page. Okay, so there's our portfolio grid. I only have one project right now, and I can hover over and click this icon to bring up the project settings area. So right here, I can set things such as the thumbnails for various features. I can set a column width for this project. Jumping on over to the settings tab, I can set a project title and type, and these are both what will show below the portfolio grid thumbnail if I've chosen these to be visible. You can also set a custom permalink for the project. I also have the ability to assign a category to my project, so more on this later. And then there's just some also general settings for this project. So, all right, so jumping back, let's preview the page. And here is my live page. If I click this thumbnail, it's now going to take me to the project page for this project. If I go back, there is my portfolio grid again. Jumping back to the editor, I'm going to go to the quick links menu. And I have my pages here on the left and my projects on the right. So let's click the project that's in my grid. And here you can see that project in the editor. And that's really the basics of how the portfolio grid works with projects. All right, so now let's talk about customizing the portfolio grid. I'm now in the back end and I've added more projects to the grid. And as you can see, if I hover over, and once again, I have the option to quickly click this icon to adjust the project settings. We're now going to adjust the column width. So the portfolio grid works in 12 columns. So for example, if I set this to 3 and I set this project to 6 columns, you can now see where the grid has adjusted to the amount of columns that I've assigned to each of these projects. Okay, I'm then going to pull up the portfolio grid options again by clicking on the module. And the first option you'll see is the ability to filter projects by category. And as previously mentioned, you can assign categories to each project in the project settings. Okay, so we'll just switch this back to turn off all these categories. And now, secondly, we have the option to adjust the gutter. So that's basically the spacing between each of your thumbnails. If I refresh this, you can see there's a lot more space now between the thumbnails. I'll just set it back to 30. We'll refresh the grid. Okay, next options. You also have the ability to customize the display of the project title or category. If I set this to only show the project title, you can see now only the title is showing. You then can also customize the typography of your project title or category. I'll just make some quick adjustments to this here. I'll style out the project category. And I'll refresh the grid. And there is our new type stylings. Okay, so this is all looking pretty good in the editor. Let's just get a quick little sneak peek of how this is going to look on the live site. I'll save my changes and preview my page. And there we can see our nice little portfolio grid with all of our custom stylings. And now lastly, let's talk about the project display. So you have several different options here. You have the standard, which we're using now, and you also have this category live filter. So if I select this, and I'll go up here, refresh the grid, and now you'll notice there are these links above the grid with each of our categories. And I'll show you what this does live on the page. I can now cycle through each of these project categories and they will update live on my page. So it's just a really handy tool to allow site visitors to browse between different categories of your work. You also have some options to customize this as well. Let's go back to the project display. The next is limited number of projects. So if you want to limit the amount of projects that's shown in this grid, you can, for example, set 3. If I refresh, you'll see now there's only 3 projects in the grid. Lastly, we have the lazy load feature, and this is for if you have a lot of projects and you don't want to slow your page or site down, you can limit the number of projects that are displayed at a time. So I'm going to set 2 projects to show initially, and then on click, 2 more will load. I'll refresh the page here and you can see what that looks like. Scrolling on down, there's the plus icon to load more projects. There's 2 more. And now only 1 is showing because we've ran out of projects. All right, well, that's how to use the portfolio grid. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, keep on rocking it with Semplice.